Hello, everyone, and hello, Brayden. How are you today?
I'm doing good today, and I hope you are too.
Now, Brayden, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you were accused of something you didn't do but still faced a punishment?
Yes, I have, matter of fact. My mom once accused me of taking her money when I did not. How about you?
Yep, safe to say we've all had an experience like this. Even all throughout history, there have been events where groups of people have had false accusations against them, just like a modern-day witch hunt.
Another event throughout U.S. history that has to do with false accusations includes Japanese internment, which was when the U.S. speculated that Japanese people were spies.
Ah, yes, Japanese internment, a prime example of a modern-day witch hunt in American history. After the attacks on Pearl Harbor in 1941, people in America, specifically the government, feared that Japan had spies in America. In order to eliminate these spies, all Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps to take them out of society.
After the attacks on Pearl Harbor, hysteria sparked throughout many American citizens. Paranoia surrounding Japanese Americans being spies was the main cause for the internment camps.
Internment is the state of being confined as a prisoner, typically for political reasons. Therefore, the government of the United States sent all Japanese American citizens to internment camps for the purpose of eliminating paranoia around them being Japanese spies.
Internment started 2 months prior to Pearl Harbor. The government needed time to execute the internment plan, but Japanese people were only informed of their removal a couple days before.
Yeah, Japanese Americans were left with little time to prepare themselves to move out. They had to leave their belongings, house, and pets behind. And while they were away, many had their homes vandalized and robbed, leaving them with nothing when they returned. Pets were also never seen again after they left.
These internment camps were located in desert areas. Some states included were Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. The condition of these camps were brutal. Warm, dry air, poor ventilation, and no privacy made for living conditions. As a result of these poor living conditions, many people became ill and even died. And a fun fact, due to internment camps, the disease risk in America escalated to 2.1% according to PBS.
Yeah, families were separated because many men were taken to separate camps for the entirety of the internment event. Death also took the lives of family members. Between the poor living conditions and death, it's safe to say that the government violated the basic human rights of Japanese Americans when they put them in these internment camps.
When you say the government of the United States, who do you mean exactly? What person or groups of people enforced the internment?
Great question, Brayden. Japanese internment was enforced by President Franklin D. Roosevelt as part of Executive Order 9066. This order authorized the forced removal of all people who were viewed as a threat to the nation from society, targeted Japanese Americans, German Americans, and Italian Americans. However, Japanese Americans were more heavily affected by the order.
That's very interesting, Michael. I've always viewed Roosevelt as a president of the people because of his efforts to relieve the people during the Great Depression. The hysteria surrounding the speculation of Japanese spies must have been so significant that it made Roosevelt execute Executive Order 9066.
You make a good point there, Brayden. Even a good president, such as Roosevelt, was paranoid by the situation. I wonder what effect the president's paranoia had on society.
The fact that the president and government were paranoid by Japanese Americans definitely affected the way the rest of society viewed them. Japanese Americans were looked at much differently by society. People became paranoid that all Japanese Americans were spies that were a threat to the nation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because of this paranoia, society felt Japanese Americans feared for their own safety. They themselves were paranoid that something bad would happen to them, like an angry mob coming to hurt or even attack them.
Yeah, that's true, and it wasn't only during World War II. Years after the Japanese Americans received hate from the people. It's unfortunate, but to this day, Japanese Americans face racism from others.
That is definitely unfortunate. Due to this, many faced psychological damage. The racist and discriminatory remarks made against them affected many, such as fear for their own safety.
And like previously mentioned, Japanese Americans were forced out of their homes with little notice. They left their homes without their pets, belongings, and businesses all left behind. This all led to a major loss in money. Some people had worked their whole lives to afford their house or start their own business, but were forced to be removed from their house, which ruined their lives for many. This really relates to modern-day witch hunts, as many people were paranoid because they could be falsely convicted at any time.
Yes, I agree with your point there, Brayden. Many innocent people became nervous because their life could be jeopardized due to false accusations. This reminds me of the play The Crucible. In the play, the author, Arthur Miller, exhibits a story based around the Salem witch trials.
Now, let's dig deeper. To connect Japanese internment to Arthur Miller's play The Crucible, both events produced lots of hysteria and paranoia throughout the public. They are both prime examples of witch hunts where certain people were accused of something they didn't do, and as a result, they faced a punishment.
However, Japanese people were given no opportunity to prove their innocence, while people in the witch trials were given the opportunity to have a chance and go on trial and possibly prove their innocence.
Yes, that is a good point. The Japanese Americans involved in the internment camps had no ability to plead innocent due to the racism they were faced with.
Yes, each one of these scenarios had very different outcomes. The purpose of the witch trials was to kill the guilty people, while the purpose of the Japanese internment was to imprison them.
Yes, but despite this, many of the Japanese Americans passed away due to illnesses because of the horrible living conditions.
Despite these key differences, there were also lots of similarities between these two events.
That is a good point, Michael. Both of these events caused lots of paranoia and targeted many innocent people.
In Arthur Miller's play The Crucible, the character Abigail Williams uses paranoia to manipulate the people of Salem into thinking other people are witches and not her. She uses paranoia to spark more paranoia amongst the people of Salem. A quote from the play that demonstrates this is from Act 1, Scene 1, when Abigail states, "I want to open myself. I want the light of God. I want the sweet love of Jesus. I danced for the devil. I saw him. I wrote in his book. I go back to Jesus. I kiss his hand. I saw Sarah Good with the devil. I saw Goody Osborne with the devil. I saw Bridget Bishop with the devil." Abigail has an outburst of hysteria that she uses to manipulate people into thinking she is innocent of being a witch. In that process, she incites fear to the people she's speaking to and accuses other people in an attempt to make herself seem innocent.
That's right, and the Japanese internment camps sparked paranoia surrounding the idea that Japanese people were spies. According to History.com, anti-Japanese suspicion and fear led Roosevelt administration to adopt a drastic policy toward these residents, alien and citizen alike. Because the President and government of the United States feared Japanese people, the rest of society also shared fear with them. A whole nation feared a group of people because of the President's use of paranoia surrounding Japanese Americans to spark fear surrounding them. Paranoia is used in both scenarios to spark an idea among a group of people that another group of people or person is guilty.
Japanese Americans were accused of being spies, and characters from The Crucible were accused of being witches, such as John and Elizabeth Proctor. Japanese internment is a significant event in our nation's history. Japanese Americans were affected by the racism, discrimination that grew among many Americans due to the paranoia they had surrounding Japanese people being spies.
It's important to understand that paranoia is a strong emotion that can manipulate people into believing something that may not be true.
Yeah. Also, an important takeaway from what we discussed earlier is that it is important to learn from this event in order for history to not repeat itself.
Yes, you bring up a good point, Michael. But thankfully for us, I do not see this or anything related to this occurring in the near future.
It's important to understand the impact that Japanese internment had on Japanese American citizens and how Japanese people in America are affected to this day. It's essential to remember the dark events that happened during the Japanese internment.
All we can do is hope. Anyways, that brings us to the end of our podcast today. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone. So long.